Hey guys, I'm here today with Sean Pablo.
What's up?
At Sean Pablo Rocks, and we're gonna be making 2 videos on dating in Korea. His video is going to be dating in general and how the market has changed, so please go ahead and check that out. This video is going to be our experiences and in general the men versus the women's side of online and technology-based dating in Korea. So let's begin.
Let's get into it.
I've been in Korea for 5 years. Sean's been here for two and a half.
2.5 years, yeah.
And we've both been using online website-based dating as well as phone apps. And we're gonna compare the two so you guys can see what our experiences have been thus far.
Oh yes.
So first let's start with I've personally used online OkCupid, I've used Korean Cupid. I don't really use any of the pay-to-play kind of dating websites.
Scam. I never do that shit, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of just, that's not worth my time or my money. And I find that in general, my experiences have been in Korea, not that particularly great. Usually for a woman, it's you make a profile, you kind of half-heartedly fill out the text part of it.
Yeah.
And as long as you put good pictures, guys will message you.
True. In terms of online dating, like OkCupid, you should put more effort into your bio and your interests and stuff. I think it's in the guy's interest to be as open and transparent as possible. Mm-hmm. But I will kind of go along with you and say it's almost equally as superficial for men too. For us, pictures and how well you message is pretty much the most important thing.
With online dating, it's 50-50 for the men, 50% pictures, 50% the text that you write. Yeah. And I remember seeing a research study that they did for women, and it's more 80% pictures and 20% what the text that they write. They purposely made a profile with a beautiful woman's photos and the nastiest, meanest, racist, biased, insulting, vain, egocentric, everything you could possibly think of profile text, and men still would message her. And I think also for women as well, we have the problem of getting messaged by literally everyone. So, I would get things in my inboxes, but you have to weed through a bunch of really creepy guys. When I first got to Korea 5 years ago, I think I was using Korean Cupid or something. And I wanted to meet guys, and like I said, this is 5 years ago, so this is the Stone Age of Korea. And
Korean online dating. Yeah.
I ended up talking to this one guy. He was Korean, but he spoke English, so I was like, okay, well, let's meet up. And at the time I was living in Indaguan, so he said, let's meet at this restaurant that's near Subway Exit 2. And I was like, oh, I live right next to Subway Exit 2. I didn't tell him that, just in my head. I live right next to Subway Exit 2. And he was like, let's go at this bar on the 2nd floor of this office tel. And I was like, that is my office tel. Yes. And I was like, okay, because he doesn't know where I live, so it's not like it's a big deal, right? And I could just be super lazy and just go take the elevator and be at my date.
Yeah.
So meet up with him at the subway, so he thinks that I live somewhere else.
Smart.
We go to my office tel, to the 2nd floor, and we're talking, and I noticed he has tattoos, and as an American, I don't think anything of tattoos, because everyone has tattoos nowadays, especially our age, who cares?
Yeah.
And we're chatting and just having a good time. And he starts talking about how he was surprised that I live in Indaguan because he knows this area really, really well. And I was like, oh, really? Why do you know it so well? And he's like, oh, I used to work in the basement next door to this office tel.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, really? What did you work as? And he was like, well, I was the gangster who owns the establishment. I was his bodyguard and bouncer for the special noraebang that is there. And that was my first inkling. I've been in this area for 2 weeks. I didn't realize I was in the red light district yet. And that was my first understanding that, one, the guy that I was sitting across the table from was actually an ex-gangster turned university student, and that's why he had those tattoos.
So did that turn you off, or was that okay, that's his past, now we can...
No, that was a huge turn off. I was like, I don't want to be dating an ex-gangster. I don't want to be the daughter in Taken because he upset some previous mob boss in a past life. No. So yeah, we were not gonna have another date after that. Okay. And that was my first experience with it. Going on an accidental date with a gangster did not endear me towards online dating in Korea. So I stopped for a long time after that. And then eventually, like after like a year, and I moved to Bumgay, then I started again.
That's so funny. It's like that moment in a date where you're like, oh, I'm not gonna see this person again, but you still have to finish the date. I'll just share a little catfish story. I mean, it's not that, it's not really very exciting as your story, but we just been talking on OkCupid, and I was going to study abroad really soon, so we were just kind of meeting, and just for fun or whatever. And she looked really cool. She was really cool to talk to, and just her pictures were cool. So then we ended up meeting at a Starbucks the first time, and it was like in the center of city in Philadelphia. And yeah, I just remember looking at my text and then looking like on my bike and being, oh, that's the girl, right? And she just looked so different, but I knew it was the same person.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I got so angry. I got so like.
Did you still go on the date, or did
I
you
still went on the
her?
date.
Oh, what a stand-up gentleman you are.
But like that's awkward. What do you do in that situation? Would you just have biked away?
I've had that happen to me twice.
Because you don't want to waste each other's time.
Like okay, it happened to me once where a guy had clearly gained a lot of weight since the pictures that he had posted online, and I still went through the date. It was a coffee date, and I didn't see him before I'd walked in the door.
Yeah.
And so I sat down with him and we chatted, and in my head I'm like, why would you do yourself the disservice of pretending to be someone you're not when I will clearly find out one way or another?
Exactly.
And at that point you've set the bar so high that you can only fall.
Yeah.
So it's not really a great tactic, I have to say.
The worst tactic.
And I also feel deceived. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, in my head he's a liar, he's a deceiver, you know, he's not presenting the full truth, so why would I want a relationship with somebody like this? We've already started out on the wrong foot.
Such a lose-lose to do that.
So like that was a Korean guy, but I've also had the Korean language equivalent where I met up with a guy whose English seemed really good, and then in person his English was terrible, and I found out the whole time he was using like Google Translate and stuff to write his messages to me and to check and understand what I was saying. So the whole date was like a really bad language exchange. And afterwards he was like, you know, much more of course eloquent on the phone, and he was like, hey, when are we gonna go on the next date? And I was like, I can't, dude, like this was years ago, so my Korean was zero.
Yeah.
And I've since then dated a guy whose English wasn't perfect, and we got along fine because we were between the languages, but at that time it was not ever going to work.
That'll never happen, I think, probably to either of us again, because we're in that point. But
yeah, but even then, if somebody were to say that they're fluent in English and then I met them and they lied, then it's the same problem as the guy who physically catfished me. I'd be like, you're not telling me the whole truth. So
yeah.
I would narrow my eyes at them.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're gonna online date, show who you are, because if the end goal is to meet, they're gonna find out who you are anyway.
Obviously, I didn't have the best experiences with OkCupid.
I don't like OkCupid.
Korean,
I really don't.
OK Korean or whatever that was. So let's get into phone apps. I've personally used Tinder, and I actually like it for the most part. I've never used it for hookups, so I actually put in the description, like in all caps, no hookups, which you would think is kind of weird because Tinder was initially...
Swipe that left. I see that swipe left. Just kidding.
Tinder is initially like the hookup app, but I think it's evolved into more of just a generalized dating app compared to what it was when it first started.
Tinder is super fast-tracked. It's like left, right, swipe right. It's not like you send a message and you hope that's OkCupid. And then like maybe she messages you back or maybe she doesn't. With Tinder, it's like swipe, forget about it. Oh, 2 days later, oh, you matched. Now you can talk. And there's such a level playing field because she knows you're attractive, or she thinks you're attractive. You think she's attractive. Yeah, I've met a ton of cool girls off there.
A ton, John. How many would you say?
Okay, a handful. One of my favorite uses of Tinder is when I'm traveling. If I'm going to Japan, I'll set my Tinder to Japan when I get there, and I'll just put in my bio, I'm in Japan, let's have a drink, show me around Japan, even if it's like just friends.
Yeah.
And that's like a tour guide, you know?
That's interesting.
Great. Yeah, I love it for traveling. I really do. And when I'm using Tinder, so many people are like here in Seoul for like a week, here in Seoul for 2 weeks. Well, great. That's cool. Let's hang out. You know what I mean?
I wonder if I could do that, but like set my profile for like likes women, so that I could find like a female tour guide to send me through Japan, so I don't end up molested and in a ditch somewhere. See, this is where like online dating and phone app dating is my mind always goes to like, how do I do this without getting killed? Because as a woman, you're like always a lot more cautious. I feel like I have a lot more to lose.
First thing, you have to meet in a public place. Really, seriously.
Yeah.
I would want to too. Like meet in a crowded bar or a crowded Starbucks or something. That should be your first interaction. Never like go to their house or whatever first, you know? It should be like a public place or friends with your friends.
Yeah.
Say, come join me and my friends. That should be your first thing.
Yeah, okay.
And that makes it safer.
Did you ever end up like dating somebody from Tinder? Seriously?
Any of the long-term girls, to be honest, have been like casual relationships or mostly just casual relationships or just friends.
I
have a friend now that's like a good friend that has come from an application. Yeah.
Overall, I would say if I had to pick one to use, in Korea, you get a much better chance of meeting someone you like who fits your specifications on Tinder. It gets the superficial aspect of it out of the way faster, and it also filters who can actually talk to you. So you, as a woman, you don't get all the creepy, weird PMs. You only get messages from guys that you, at the very least, find physically attractive. You have to charm your way, both of you, into meeting in person.
Sure, yeah.
And you'll also have a much better chance of like meeting a Korean person if you're interested in like not just dating foreigners, whereas like online is, you're kind of stuck with just foreigners. Yeah. I've met some cool guys that we went on like easily maybe 5 or 6 dates, maybe more, and it never ended in a relationship, but those people, I never felt unsafe. I never felt like they lied to me. I always felt respected, and that I think is really cool. So I would probably suggest Tinder based on, compared to anything else. Yeah. But you said that there's something else that Koreans use.
The best app that I've had with the best experiences. I met the best women. I made the best friends.
Okay.
Meeff. Meeff.
I have no idea what that is.
Meeff is like made in Korea. It's a Korean app. It's similar to Tinder, but it's really amazing. It's ambiguous. The symbol is like a half heart. You can look it up.
Okay.
So the whole point is like it's whatever you make of it. You swipe heart or you swipe X or you press X when you see a person's picture.
Yeah.
Right? You can set your preferences to girls or men or both. Most people use it like a dating app, but some people are just language exchange. So you really put whatever you want, and really people connect to it because it's the same as Tinder, where like if 2 people match, then they open a conversation box, room, whatever.
Yeah.
But I've met the best women, really cool, sweetheart women, and or just like friends, or just like casual relationships. It's been really good. Meeff. Definitely recommend that.
That is such a weird sounding name.
Meeff? Yeah.
Are you more likely to get Koreans or foreigners on there?
I avoid foreigners. I don't know.
What would you say? Like, what's the ratio?
You're my second foreigner friend. Third. I have a lot of Korean friends. I only have 3 foreign friends.
So that's our experiences and the general kind of online technology-based dating scene in Korea. If you guys have any questions for me or Sean, feel free to put it in the comments. Please like and subscribe to both of our channels.
Yes.
And I will see you next week.
다음에 또 봐요.